two questions first before we go on to the how to form the
誒，你好，你好，條褲啊，爆
inequalities using the constraints,
window 嘅嘢啦，我
and also
插俾你喎。
how to find the maximum and minimum value of the objective function, right? So I'm going to show these things, right? But the first of all, I have to continue to show you how to draw the straight line and also how to shape the region first, okay? Still got one more person, one or two more, okay, right, slowly, never mind, we can start now, but slowly, or let's say if I have an inequality like this, x minus 2y greater or equal to negative 4. Now, first of all, I have to draw the line. Then second, I have to shape the region. So how to draw the line? Now, in your textbook and also maybe your teacher, they will tell you, you substitute values and find 2 points on the line, then you draw the straight line. But if you have only 2 points on the line, the straight line that you draw may not be very towards the end of the ruler there. It's not so accurate. So in order to draw an accurate straight line, you have to plot a few points. So I'm going to show you how to use the gradient to plot the points. Okay, right. So this is the equation, x minus 2y greater or equal to negative 4. First of all, you change this inequality, or if you want to make it into an equation, then you change it to y equals to mx plus c. Okay, y equals to mx plus c. So I move the x over, it becomes negative x minus 4. Then divide by 2, it will be negative 1 over 2x minus 2. But negative y is not the y equals to mx plus c. You have to change it to the positive y. So if you change the negative y to positive y, the inequality sign will change. Okay, not? So the inequality sign will change. And you have to take note of this. Okay, right. So from here, I extract the gradient. The gradient is 1 over 2. Then the y-intercept is 2. Now, sometimes I told you in the last lesson, we start by plotting from the y-intercept. But sometimes the y-intercept is very far away. You can also start by plotting from the x-intercept. So you find what is the x-intercept, you mark the x-intercept. So it depends on the equation on the line and your scale. All right. Then you plot the line according to the gradient, not according to the points that you have substitute in, like in your textbook. Okay, you plot according to the gradient, then if the sign is less than, you shade the bottom of the line. If the sign is greater than, then you shade the top of the line. You don't have to substitute value again. The book, they ask you to substitute value, but if your equation is in the form y equals to mx plus c, then you have to, okay, right. If your equation is y equals to mx plus c, you start with y as the subject of the formula, and automatically less than means below the line, greater than means above the line. Yeah, you take note from this. Okay, so now I know the intercept is 2, 0. I mark the point 2, 0. So this is the point 2, 0, right? Then I move according to the gradient. The gradient is 1 over 2. Now this 1 over 2 means that the vertical distance, is 1, the horizontal distance is 2. But then you have to follow the scale, right? So you cannot just count the squares here. Or 1 over 2 means one square here, two squares here. Not necessary. But in this case, because the scale on the x-axis and the y-axis, they are the same, then you just count the number of squares. But if the scale on the x-axis and y-axis, they are different, then you count the units. So this one should be 1 unit. Okay, it should be 1 unit, not 1 square, but 1 unit. 1 unit. Then this one should be not 2 squares, but 2 units. So the unit here depends on your scale, right? So if the scale is the same on the x-axis and y-axis the same, then you just count the square. Okay, show another one. Next one, this one. Okay, we draw another one. 2 units, then 1 unit, then mark the point. Okay, mark the point. Mark the point. Okay, then one last one, right? Okay, from here I start again. 2 units, 1 unit, right? Then I mark the point. Okay, 2 units, 1 unit, then I mark the points. So in this way, you have many points. And actually, you don't have to mark the points. You just see 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, then you extend your 2, 1 until very long. Then you use your long ruler to draw the line. Right? So this is how you're going to draw the line. Draw a line joining all the points. Draw a line joining all the points. Okay, then label the line, right? So in the exam, you have to label the lines. If you don't label the line, then they don't know, oh, this line is which equation. So it's according to this equation that you're given, right? Then, well, what is the sign here? The sign here is less than. You don't look at this equation here. No, you look at the final equation to determine whether it's at the top or bottom. Less than means at the bottom. So you shade the bottom, right? If greater than, the final sign here is greater than, then you shade the top. And label the region, x minus 2y greater or equal to -4. Any question? How to plot the lines? On how to plot the lines? If no question, give a thumb. If got question, you type. Okay, no question, huh? No question, then I show you one last example before we go on to the problem. Okay, before we go, I show you one more example. Right, this example is important because the scale, because of the scale, I have to show you. Right, shade the region defined by 3.5 plus 4.5 greater or equal to 350. So we try to change this equation into the form y equals to mx plus c. So to change it to y mx plus c, you move the 35 over, becomes, oh, before that you multiply with 10 first. Multiply with 10 become 35. Multiply with 10 become 45. Multiply with 10 become 3005. So this is the first equation. 35, 45, and 3005. If you want to change this to y equals to mx plus c, the x you must move over to the other side. So I move the x to the other side. This is still not y equal to mx plus c yet. You have to divide by 45. So divide by 45, everyone divide by 45. Okay, I see that this one is negative 35 over 45. Don't change it to a decimal number. Leave it as a fraction, the simplest fraction. So the simplest fraction is negative 7 over 9. This is the simplest fraction. Similarly, the value of c. Now the value of c, you don't make it into a decimal. Decimal you cannot plot on the graph. So you just leave it as fraction, 700 over 9. So we know that the gradient m is negative 7 over 9. The y-intercept is 77 and 7 over 9. Oh, take note that this is not the whole number. So if it's not the whole number, then you don't use it. Don't use it to plot. Okay, now I try to get a whole number, right? Instead of getting the y-intercept, which is not a whole number, now I turn to the x-intercept. How to get the x-intercept? Okay, you can get the x-intercept by putting y equals to 0. So you go back to this equation here, the first line, you put y equals to 0. Okay, so y equals to 0, y equals to 0, you can always put here, but here is better, the first one. Once you put y equals to 0 here, you know that 35x equals to 3,500. So 3,500 divided by 35, you get x equals to 100. So we know that the x-intercept is 100. Very nice number. It's a whole number. Then I can mark this point, right? So I start by marking this point 100, 0, which is the x-intercept. I normally, in our last few examples, I ask you to mark the y-intercept first. But in this case, the y-intercept is not a whole number, so I have to find the x-intercept. If x-intercept is not a whole number, then you have to find a whole number point. You have to substitute values. Substitute values into the equation to find the whole number, right? So now I can find the whole number 0 or 100, 0. From 100, 0, I plot according to the gradient. So where is 100, 0? At this point here, 100, 0, right? Now, what is the horizontal distance that I should move? 9 units. Actually, it's a ratio. You can take 90 units also can. But here 90 units, and afterwards you have to add a 0 there, right? So you take 90 units. Then what is the vertical distance? 70 units. So one more time. Why I do like that? Because my gradient is negative 7/9. Negative 7/9 means what? Okay, it means that the horizontal distance is 90 units, the vertical distance is 70 units. So you mark this point here, right? So mark this point, okay, this is the point, right? One point is here, 100, 0, and the other one is here. Move 9, then 7. 9, 7 is just the ratio. It's just the ratio. Ratio of the units, right? So after that, after you mark the point, then you use your long ruler, you join up the 2 points. Use a long ruler, join up the 2 points. Then label the line. So the line is this one. 3.5, 4.5, 350. Then you look at the inequality sign. The inequality sign, the last step, you don't look at the first step. Look at the last step here, is greater than. Greater than means above the line. This is the part, right? Above the line. Then I label the. Any question?
No, teacher.
No. Other students, any question? Other students also no question, right? No question. Jia Yan said can understand. Oh, you can you see the method I used to plot the straight line? I use the gradient, right? So the gradient is just a ratio. It can be 7 units, 9 units. It can be 70 units, 90 units, as long as it follows that ratio. Second thing, you have to plot them in units, not by counting the squares, by counting the units. Because, of course, in this case, you just count 9 units, you count 9 squares. This one you count 7 squares, is still correct. Because the scale on the x-axis and y-axis, they are the same. Now, if the scale on the x-axis and y-axis they are different, then if you just count the square, it will be wrong. Okay or not? So count the units, don't count the squares. Have you gone through the video I gave you yesterday, where I show you the actual graph paper using the units, not using this number of squares? Okay, now have you seen the video? Yes, you have seen the video. Okay, so if you have seen the video, that's why I asked you to see the video first before you come. Because if I plot using the computer, the computer will make things very easy. So you cannot actually see the units and the number of squares. You cannot see the difference. Okay, right. No question, then we